Welcome to our talk, the place where we agree to disagree, if we disagree at all. Munikai Muhammad is my guest today. Our topic is irritation. Munikai, hello, welcome.
Good greetings to you, Renee. Good afternoon to you.
You're up somewhere north in Japan. Do you have snow yet?
Actually, today was the first day of snow in my city, but it's not major snow, just, enough to get the notice that it is that time of the year.
Good. I arrived at the conference here in the mountains of Switzerland, and it has been snowing. You might maybe get the impression through the window for the last 3 days. The ski lifts aren't open yet. So I'm speculating that on the last day of the Congress here, they're going to open the ski lift. So I took my ski boots along, and who knows?
It's Switzerland. It's famous for the mountains and snow and skiing and all that good stuff.
But you are up very north in Japan because sometimes people hear Japan and they instantly think, Yokohama or Tokyo. But you're in a smaller village, aren't you?
Not a village. It's a major city. It's called Sendai. And easiest way to find it, find a map of Japan, put your finger right on Tokyo, go straight up, and you'll find Sendai. It's a big city, but it's much more cozier than Tokyo, in my opinion, and I like it here.
Very good. Let me quickly introduce you to my guests who may not know you. Munikai is in the northern Japan, as I said. He and his partner Lena Takahashi, they have a Reiki center, and it's called the Healing Land Reiki. Munikai grew up the grandson of an assistant minister in Islam and the son of a trainer of men. Already as a child, he found adult conversation on topics such as self-involvement and building the will more interesting than playing with children his own age. He remembers thinking children are too childish, they wasted time playing when there are more important things to do. And he committed his life to more important things to do. That means his passion is to expand awareness, knowledge, and training to communities of color who have not known about the accessibility, practicality, and helpfulness of Reiki. In his free time, now it gets interesting, Munikai loves dancing and was a professional hula dancer for 10 years. He has been doing Latin dancing for 20 years. So, Munikai, I think I wouldn't want to dance with a professional, but do fill me in. What's hula dancing, please?
Hula is the language of the heart. It is the way to express yourself. If someone is saying something with words, the dancer is actually telling the story through movement. It's a way to harmonize with nature and to express yourself. And it's the language of the Hawaiian people. And it is a very beautiful, not just art form, but way of communicating and expressing yourself. And in ancient times, the men who dance hula, the training is so intense that they were selected to be the warriors in battle because the hula training is that intense. But it's also very graceful, very dynamic, very beautiful. And I do appreciate the Hawaiian teachers. Aloha to all kumuhulas who've taught me, and I appreciate being able to learn from the Hawaiian people.
Wow, I didn't expect this. There was so much warmth and so much passion. I just had an art talk on passion. Maybe we should have spoken about hula dancing and passionate passions and the language of the heart and how that communicates with the fact that gracefulness and warriorship, that they're not mutually exclusive, instead of irritation. Did I say that rightly? That warrior
No,
and
you said it right. Because when a person is, there is you can be the all strength type of warrior, but the well-rounded type are the people who can display both strength and grace at the same time, where you can see beauty and technique and refinement. These kind of things are what's the difference between just some big hulking bundle of muscle versus someone who's fine with grace, with style, who can balance something on their fingers and like moving like the water, and yet at the same time there's a strength there that not necessarily everyone knows. You can hide your strength and yet still have it. That's one thing I learned when I was doing hula dancing.
And I think you're touching on an important point. Actually, this is what this Congress is all about. I mean, and it has nothing to do with Reiki, but has a lot to do with consciousness, and that is integrating that capability in me of strength and hardness and even aggression, as much as integrating the what people might call the soft skills and things like that. And of course, very often people think that when they integrate the less attractive sides of their personalities, this doesn't mean that we have to use them, to explore them. And in martial arts, one of the most beautiful things, I just had a karate Reiki students in my class, and we spoke about that. And he said very clearly that the best karate and martial artist is the one who's never in a fight.
That is actually true. That's actually true, because it's not learning the martial arts. It's not about learning them to fight. It's about life training. It's a life skill, as is hula dancing. I would be perfectly happy to learn the hula and never be on stage, because it's the training, the life skills. And when in martial arts, when you get so refined in your technique that you actually seek to avoid confrontation and physical encounters that can harm another individual, that is a sign of a true master, because with all the different knowledges and skills, it will be easy to do something to someone, but why would I want to do that? When you reach that level of thinking, that's when you know you're reached a level of mastery in life, not just karate, but in life.
Yeah. And I think it's more than just a level of thinking and the mental attitude. I think it's a holistic approach. But we're getting very excitedly, I'm pleased about it, onto a different track. We meant to speak about irritation. And, you know, when I looked up irritation in preparation for our conversation, Googled and so on, and I found zillions of videos and what have you, but they mainly dealt with skin irritation and that kind of thing. But that's not the irritation. That's not the irritation we mean, don't we? So let me ask you, anything irritated you today?
Yes. There was some paperwork that I needed to file, and I had all the documents and everything. Then when I get to where I was supposed to be, the person or people who were supposed to do it, they were in other meetings, or they had other plates that were full with other things. And so I took time out of my schedule to go fill out this paperwork, but the people were not there to help me to do their part. And so that was irritating. And so I had to think to myself, do I how do I handle it? Do I just breathe with it, or do I make a fuss? I just chose not to breathe with it, because what could I do? It's not like, if I would have gotten there earlier, I wouldn't have had that trouble. Fortunately, though, some things worked out, and I was able to get that paperwork done, and no one got spoken to harshly, and so everything worked out fine.
And yet, sometimes it is okay to be accessing the capability of harshness, to pick up on your words. Sometimes it's okay to speak. We had a dinner last night, the whole group, and then there was a birthday surprise, which was nice. But some of us were tired. We wanted to go to bed, and the people there took a long time to come with the bill. And that really irked me. That really irritated me. So it started irritating me after I told them the first time, and I wasn't irritated. I said, do you mind if we can already settle the bill before birthday cakes and things arrive? Then we have dealt with that part. And then I waited and waited and waited and waited. And that's when the irritation came. And I went to speak, and I felt it was a situation, there was a lot of turbulence, where it was very useful to speak a very clear word. And I actually said to the lady, I'm sorry, but I'm getting very impatient and irritated. Please help me, and please bring the bill now. Yes, and minutes later, it was there. So sometimes there are moments where suppressing your ill feeling is not necessarily the best of all strategies, don't you think?
That is true. That's very true. But I would say the real trick, and not the real trick, the real thing is to learn when to express your irritation and how. Because there are there's timing is important, but also how do you express it? And if a person only knows one way to express irritation, it become a robotic monotonousness. But there are times when you can express your irritation by simply being silent and looking at the individual, and they'll get the message. Or you can. Sometimes the best way to express irritation is to speak to someone in calm, measured tones. Renee, I think we're not communicating now. For example, we're communicating, but I'm using you as an example, just for example.
I'm with you. Entirely with you. And I think you said an important thing. If people have only one way to deal with it, it becomes reactionary, actually. It's no longer a considered, and I don't mean mentally prepared, but a reflected. You're not coming with the right intent into whatever you're going to do next, if it is purely a result of a cause, and the one option I have, the one strategy I have, I will explode. I will. I found a beautiful example of how to express your irritation. Would you like to see it?
Please do. Please, I'd like to see that. Yes.
Do you recognize this lady?
I've seen her a few times. I kind of recognize her.
She was in a public foyer of a public building, and she knew cameras and reporters were close by. Whether or not the Queen intended her words at the Welsh Parliament yesterday to be heard is not clear. Buckingham Palace won't say. But we do now know what the Queen thinks of world leaders who have not yet committed to next month's climate change summit, COP26. Extraordinary, isn't it, she said. I've been hearing all about COP. Still don't know who's coming. No idea. She went on, we only know about people who are not coming. It's really irritating when they talk, but they don't do. The Conference of Parties, or COP26, the Queen spoke about, is the UN Climate Change Summit in Glasgow at the end of this month. The British government is hosting the world, and the Queen will attend along with other senior royals.
So I found this a rather amusing way how the Queen found a way to deal with her irritation.
Oh yeah, the Queen has, especially at her age, she has experienced multiple ways of expressing irritation, but of why she says she's irritated. She's irritated because of people who say but they don't do. And that's one of the many different causes of irritation. And just to be honest, and sometimes I personally sometimes get irritated with myself. Sometimes I'm like, I know I need to do this. I didn't do it. Oh, and so it's sometimes self-irritation is another form of irritation. But the Queen was referring to other people, and it's always a good time to self-reflect when you are being irritated by other people or when you yourself are a source of irritation. That's a good time to be reflective. And I strive to do that myself. I don't always succeed, but I strive.
Well, join the club. Interesting, because that means when other people are irritating you, they're basically giving you a great opportunity to do some self-reflection, aren't they?
Yes. They don't always, I don't know. They don't always succeed. I don't always get the hint, but the times when I do it, because sometimes you have to take that deep breath. Okay, how do I handle this? There's many ways of handling this. And it's always important to be able to think quickly on your feet. It's easy to deal with things when you're not irritated. It's when you're irritated and when you're experiencing irritation, you really see what's inside of a person. How do you handle it? We all have those days. Some days are better than others.
Well, let me get a little personal here, since we're amongst us here. You're a black man. You're in Japan. You have an Islam background. I mean, if irritation needs a few labels, here are three for many people. And you in Japan must have felt, of course, I've been many times in Japan and I know how Japanese people are, and very often, most of the time, I'm sure you're facing a lot of curiosity, you're facing good-natured probing, and sometimes for us Westerners, amazing openness when Japanese people approach us more exotic individuals. But it must have happened to you with the three labels I used, forgive me, that you must have. How do you deal with that when you can feel the racism, the discrimination about your religious background, the bias people have when they speak to you, and you can sense that you're creating irritation in them? How do you cope with that?
I learn how to cope by first understanding who I'm speaking to. Knowing the history of the country and of the Japanese people as overall, knowing that I live in an area that has not experienced many non-Asian faces, it's easy to understand when a person may have a reaction to me. I quite literally, I understand. They just simply haven't had the experience, and so they're only doing what they know. And so I keep that in mind. And sometimes, I play little jokes on them, because if I say a Japanese word, they'll konnichiwa, and they'll immediately be like, oh, your Japanese is so good. I say, well, so is yours. And then they start laughing and they're like, oh, well, I live here in Japan. So do I. So do I. And so I just look at it as sometimes people are only expressing what they know. And knowing that, it helps me to be patient. It helps me to be patient with them and help me be patient with others, because I look at it as they're asking, so that's a key. The door is actually opened by their asking. So what am I going to do? Am I going to put in a friendly seed that may grow to a nice tree for someone else later, or am I going to put a harsh brick that will close the door of the person's heart? And I like to try, don't always succeed, but I like to try to do things that will help people long time after me. So I try to not really take the irritation, but there are people who generally have biases, and knowledge, properly applied knowledge, helps to clear away those biases.
Yeah, that's a noble. That's noble what you're saying, and I'm happy to hear that you're also saying I don't always succeed in this. I think that agent provocateur is an expression which just came to my mind. Sometimes to be an irritant is actually a noble presence. And in fact, I just remembered what Socrates said about this. He said, I was attached to the city as upon a noble horse, which needed to be stirred by a gadfly. I never cease to rouse, to persuade, and reproach you, my people, everywhere and always. I find myself in your company. So this is like 400 before Christ, 2,500 years ago, and this sentence is somewhat of a cornerstone for many philosophers who are saying we need to speak truth, uncomfortable truths, in the knowledge that that we are making ourselves unpopular. And you know what they're saying, the first person who gets shot is the bearer of news. So rooted in this thought of Socrates, there is a way, and I personally, in my personal life, I've often felt that I played this role, that I was a catalyst for reactions in others. Now, I, like probably you and probably the rest of humanity, we all are individuals who, at the heart of hearts, want to be loved and want to be embraced and respected. But to be the bearer of ill news occasionally is not a place where you're making yourself popular. So I was, with my question and with my cheekiness, to not let an elephant stand in the room of you being a black man, being of Muslim descent. By voicing this, I wanted to. Some of the viewers may have been irritated by that because it's border case of political correctness to speak like that. And when you are that irritant, when you are the bearer of bad news, and when you fail to come from that noble spot you have described, what do you make of your role in such moments where you are obviously a catalyst for bias, or even a bearer of news which is unpopular?
First of all, I always strive to come from the standpoint of view is, what is truth? What is based on actual fact? Not my opinion, not how I feel. What's the actual facts? As long as I'm standing on the actual facts, then I have no problem expressing popular opinion, and if I have to force the issue, because when you're standing on the facts, then no one else has anything else to argue with except for the things that are not factual. And I just when people are trying to do that with me, I just try to remind them, and number one, let's stick to the facts. Because number two, there's no reason for you to be irritated. I'm the one who's irritated, and I'm trying to help you to help me. I would appreciate it if we could have some cooperation here. And sometimes if they don't, well, then I just simply have to remove myself from that situation, because I choose where to go and where to be. And I do not choose to be around people or places that find my personage irritating and they're tolerating me, because I don't do that to others and I don't expect them to do that to me. So I choose. If they're being very irritating to myself and I'm feeling irritation, well, then I choose to remove myself from that situation, because there's at least 126 million people in Japan alone, 7 billion people on the planet. I choose my space. And and the earth is a big place. So if this place over here is irritating, well, I'll go over here. Then, and move on and leave them be. Because if my presence is causing them irritation, okay, fine, I'll remove myself. But if their presence is causing me irritation, it's like, hey, we have to, there's a parting of the ways here. You go your way and I go mine.
Yeah. Interesting, because I have recently been in situations where, with all goodwill to collaborate and to do the right thing, well, first of all, it created what I call a dissonance, a cop-out word for fight or disagreement. And first of all, I wanted to say, I think it's valuable, and I hear that from you also, that when there is a situation where there is what seems to be an unsolvable dispute, that I ask myself, what's my contribution in this? How come I created this experience in my life? And I think I found that recently very powerful, also talking to other people, to organizations like where I am now, when there is a dissonance, to ask, okay, it's easy to pinpoint the catalysts, that which went wrong. It's easy to pinpoint people and the problem. But let's step back a step back and ask ourselves, how come I'm part of this? Where did I take a decision to go that way, where I'm landing now, where I am now? And in that situation, if it's clear that I am co-responsible for my own experience, that helps me and has helped recently a number of other people to then come and do exactly what you said. Now, be conscious of the fact I'm walking on my own 2 feet. And if this situation is unbearable, one of the choices I do have is walk away from it.
It is. That's true. It's also difficult because emotions are involved. And when our hearts are involved, sometimes we want to, well, for lack of better terms, stay and fight. Not fight as in physical, but stay and continue to have an argument or a discussion because we feel passionate about the topic. But there are times when I personally choose, I can't speak for other people, but I choose to ask myself, what would be the purpose of me staying in this discussion? Am I trying to change the other person's mind? What's the benefit to myself? What's the benefit to them? Is it worth it to that person? Is it worth it to myself? Is it worth it to the people who are listening? And if the answer is no, then you know what? I respect myself enough to say, go, you're more than you, sir or ma'am. You can have your ideas. That is totally fine. I will go over here. Now, do we do it all the time? Of course not. I mean, but the point is, it's something that I strive to practice. Don't always succeed, but strive to practice it, because it's easy to do on social media. Some person is deliberately choosing to misrepresent your words or something. It's like, okay, well, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Okay. They're trying to goad you sometimes, or trying to irritate you. Well, it's my choice if if you, person X, may be trying to irritate me, but that doesn't mean that I have to go along with the program. I just choose not to. Okay, you can think that, but do your thing. So
Yeah.
it's easy to see on social media.
Yeah, I quite agree with you. And this is one reason why these art talks are not edited. They're either broadcast or they're not being broadcast. And that's, I find, very valuable. People can hear you and me. They can hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what you and I said in conversation with each other. We're coming to an end. This has been, one of the things I enjoyed talking to you. There was always so much warmth, humanity, so much closeness. We don't know each other. I've spoken twice to you online so far. And I always felt that we had a lot of fun also talking to each other, a lot of humor, which is important to you. So how do you feel? And maybe some closing words for our viewers, please.
First, I want to say thank you, Renee, for the opportunity to have this conversation. To me, it's necessary. And I am just going to strive to be a better person. And if I'm not, don't get irritated with me. Please don't get irritated with me. I'm a work in progress.
Oh, what a beautiful closing. And I think there are very few people out there who cannot put their signature under the sentence, I'm a work in progress. I certainly subscribe to that. I thank you very much for this wonderful conversation. Have a good night's sleep. It's late in Japan now. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, Renee.
Bye-bye, Monica. I very much appreciated it. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. I hope you will join us again in 3 weeks' time. Subscribe if you like, and bye-bye for tonight.